Donald Trump just received very bad news out of the state of Florida at the worst possible time. Republicans, prominent Republicans, are publicly defecting from Donald Trump, deciding instead to endorse Vice President Kamala Harris. And after a horrendous appearance at the Univision town hall last week, Donald Trump is now forced to rush to Florida to try to hold an event there in order to try to regain his support. Meanwhile, Vice President Harris is sending in her surrogates as she sees an opportunity in the Sunshine State. My name is Brett Meiselas here with the MeidasTouch Network. Remember to hit subscribe and help us get to 3.5 million subscribers. Here is the top headline of the day. Republican Florida leaders endorse Kamala Harris over, quote, disaster Donald Trump. Quote, he is a blustering name-calling bully who only cares about himself. Florida just suffered through 2 major hurricanes, but there's another, quote, disaster on the way, and its name is Donald Trump, according to 3 Republicans who held prominent Sunshine State roles. Bob Milligan, who served as Florida's last elected comptroller before it changed to the current chief financial officer post, says he's backing Kamala Harris for president. Jim Smith, Florida's 32nd Attorney General and 2-time Secretary of State and longtime GOP strategist, Max Stepanovich, are doing the same. Milligan, who retired from the U.S. Marine Corps as Lieutenant General and later led Florida's Department of Veterans Affairs and Board of Education, said he's seen all kinds of leaders in his storied career. Quote, an integral part of being a good leader is your character. Unfortunately, former President Trump's character is a disaster, he said. That's why we owe it to the country and to the world to elect Kamala Harris and reject Donald Trump. Stepanovich, who worked as chief of staff to former Governor Bob Martinez and ran Jeb Bush's 1994 gubernatorial campaign, called the ex-president unprincipled, the antithesis of what should define a conservative. Quote, he is a blustering, name-calling bully who only cares about himself, Stepanovich said, which is why I have already voted for Kamala Harris and why I urge others who care about country more than party to do the same. The trio announced their endorsements of Harris Wednesday, along with their new roles as co-chairs of the Florida Republicans for Harris Advisory Committee. They join more than 100 Republican former national security officials, several former Nikki Haley campaign staffers, a dozen former White House lawyers, and 300 former campaign staffers for Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain to cross the aisle in favor of Harris. And now we are getting some other data and indicators that Republicans are both voting for Vice President Harris and that the Democrats actually have some momentum in the Sunshine State. Here are the latest mail voting numbers. We see the Democrats leading currently with 485,510 votes compared to the Republican votes, 419,973 votes, and non-party affiliated or other ballots, 235,996 votes. That means Democrats currently hold the lead in ballots submitted with 42.5% compared to the Republicans' 36.8% and the non-party affiliateds at 20.7%. As a reminder, this is not indicative of who these people voted for. This is just representative of the party registration of those who returned ballots. So, assuming that a small percentage of Republicans are switching sides, you could surmise that Democrats have a greater lead than what we see here, as we are seeing in these polls that Democrats are retaining 98-99% of their voters, while Republicans, many of them are defecting, and many non-party affiliated and independent voters are also voting for Vice President Kamala Harris. Here's another recent poll. Kamala Harris holds major lead over Trump among Florida independents. Vice President Kamala Harris is leading former President Donald Trump among independent voters in Florida, according to a new poll. The Marist poll shows the Republican nominee is leading Harris by 4 points among likely voters in the Sunshine State. However, Harris is leading Trump by 14 points among independents, with 55% compared to Trump's 41%. Her lead with independents in the state is bigger than President Joe Biden 4 years ago, who carried the group by 11 points, according to the 2020 exit poll. Here's another article from The Nation. Could Harris take Florida and North Carolina? The data suggests she can. If Harris's support among black voters continues to consolidate as it has over the past few months, then she stands a very strong chance of winning both states. And we are seeing such energy and enthusiasm for Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign in Gainesville, Florida over the weekend. They saw their greatest turnout yet for the vice president. Check this out. And now I want to show you this energy in the typically Republican stronghold of Escambia County, Florida. Watch the energy for Vice President Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Check this out. Here's a post that is going viral on social media right now. It's from an account called Just Elizabeth Again. They say, I and my lifelong Republican, recently registered Democrat hubby just voted for Kamala Harris in Florida. And we are seeing a lot of these stories being shared. And by the way, if you have a similar story, we want to hear about it. Put it in the comments to this video. This one here is from JP from social media. He says, my wife and I are both registered Republicans in Florida. Early voting begins tomorrow in our county. We put time on our calendars to drive over there and vote for Harris. First time either of us have voted this early, and first time for a Democrat. We completely reject Trump. And the Harris campaign, I think, is sensing an opportunity in the state. So they are sending their surrogates in order to rally voters. Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff is heading to Broward County this week to rally voters for Vice President Kamala Harris and other Democrats who are running. Let me read you this from the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff is coming to Broward County for a Get Out the Vote rally. He'll visit Broward on Wednesday to, quote, rally Floridians to vote early for Vice President Harris, Governor Walz, and Florida Democrats, the campaign said. Emhoff, the vice president's spouse, will speak on behalf of her presidential candidacy. But that's not all. Colorado Governor Jared Polis is also stumping for Kamala Harris in South Florida. Let me read you this from Florida Politics. Democrats ramped up efforts to recruit more voters for presidential candidate Kamala Harris in Florida by bringing in a national leader for the party in Colorado, Governor Jared Polis. The Democratic leader from the Rocky Mountain state headlined the Out for Harris effort in South Florida for the weekend. Polis was joined by Florida Democratic Party Chair Nikki Fried and Florida House District 106 candidate Joe Saunders to rally LGBTQ+ potential voters in Miami. The effort discussed Harris's campaign objectives and centered on her vice presidential candidate, Tim Walz. The South Florida endeavor also juxtaposed the Democratic message against former President Donald Trump and the arch-conservative plan, the so-called 2025 Project, a 900-page document calling for more significant restrictions on many issues in America. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, I think, is starting to see that there is something going on in the state of Florida. He's been canceling all these events and recently even canceled an NRA event in Georgia, and now he is rushing down to Florida to try to pander to Latino voters there after absolutely offending and disgusting them during that Univision town hall last week. Here's the press release from the Trump campaign sent out later this past week. Trump to participate in a roundtable at the Latino Summit in Doral, Florida. Trump will participate in a roundtable with Latino leaders on Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024 at 11 a.m. Eastern. He would not be doing this unless that he felt like he had to, unless he felt that something was going wrong for him in the state. Meanwhile, I want to show you the difference. We just were speaking about the efforts that Democrats were doing, and you saw the people out there supporting Kamala Harris with joy and chanting and spreading these positive messages. I want to show you this horrific footage from the Trump boat parade from last weekend. And this was an absolutely horrific event, and I apologize in advance if this is a little triggering, but these were Florida neo-Nazis who were taking place in this Trump boat parade, flying around swastika flags. This is what we're up against, folks. Watch this.
Wow, look at those beautiful swastikas. There we go, white power. Hal Trump. Yeah, make America white again. Woo, woo, woo. We're out here in Jupiter, loving it, loving the good weather, blue skies. Woo, make America white. Let me see that sign, brother. Let me see that sign. There we go, man. My Pillow, 1488.
And by the way, one of the leaders of this boat parade who has not spoken out against these people who are following behind him, Eric Trump and his wife, Lara Trump, and you could see them with their kids here in this photo, and you could see they had this big blow up or something of Donald Trump bloodied from after the assassination attempt. This is the kind of stuff they were doing in Florida just last week. Sorry, I had to show it to you because it's important that people understand the stakes of what is going on there and why it's so important that people actually show up to vote. I want to show you something else that is brewing in Florida, and it is anger from the Haitian American community. Donald Trump and other politicians in Florida and other Republicans across the country have been spreading these heinous lies about the Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, saying that they eat people's pets. It is just absolutely atrocious. The Miami Herald ran a story this past week saying Rick Scott threw Haitian Americans under the bus for Trump. Florida deserves better, and they are urging Floridians to vote for his opponent, Debbie Mercosel-Powell, the Democrat who is neck and neck with him in the polls. Remember, there are over 600,000 Haitian Americans in Florida who have the ability to sway this election, and they are getting organized, and they are absolutely furious over these lies. Meanwhile, Donald Trump refuses to apologize for these despicable lies. Donald Trump was on Fox on Sunday, and he was asked about this, and he continued to double down. Watch.
Your famous line about Springfield, Ohio, and I take your point that 15 to 20,000 legal Haitian immigrants settling in that area causes a lot of friction. But when you said, and you know it's gone viral, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, you say you're just reporting what had been said. But why not say now, well, look, that turned out not to be true.
I don't know if
Here's
it's
my
not true. I don't know if it's true or not true. I read
eating
something.
The pets, you don't know if it's true or not true?
No.
It's been debunked by local officials.
What about the goose, the geese? What about the geese? What happened there? They were all missing. I don't know.
There was one guy with two geese.
Howie, I have no idea. I said something.
So it's no surprise, quite frankly, that you see immigrant communities rising up and saying, we are not taking this anymore. It's no surprise that you see independents saying, we want nothing to do with this guy. It's also no surprise that you're seeing a large amount of Republicans, including very prominent Republicans, saying, we are going to choose country over party. Now the hard work begins, folks. It should already be beginning, but the hard work continues, and here's what we have to do. Number one, vote, vote, vote. Everybody needs to get out there, go to the polls, submit ballots early, do what you can, make sure your voice is heard. Second, if you've already voted, or even if you haven't yet, make sure that you are encouraging your friends and family to get out to the polls and make their vote count. We need every pro-democracy voice to be counted in this election. Also, subscribe to this channel. We are on our way to 3.5 million subscribers, and we can't get there without you. Remember to hit the thumbs up, leave a comment. I want to hear your stories. If you voted, how did your voting experience go? What state were you in? Tell me everything about it. I would love to read your comments, and I'd love to share them also on future reports that we do here on the MeidasTouch Network. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you soon.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.